And right now, Dellen Millard's appeal of his conviction in the murder of his father has been denied, but he's walking away with a legal victory of sorts. And for more on this, we're joined live by defense lawyer Ari Goldkhan. So, Ari, the three-panel judge dismissed Dellen Millard's appeal regarding his father's murder within 15 minutes of the conclusion of his argument, in which he represented himself this morning. So, what do you make of all of this?
Well, I think I make of it what a number of other judges have made of it in the past when he was in trial courts, where he was essentially pulling what I think I'll now use as maybe a verb, pulling a Dellen Millard, where he complains, he pontificates, he has a sense of his own grandiosity, and he's essentially playing games with the court by complaining he doesn't have lawyers, he didn't have representation, and every judge has bent over backwards and then done a number of cartwheels to accommodate him. At the Court of Appeal today, the court came back in on the Wayne Millard appeal and essentially told him to sit down and you can fill in the rest of that sentence. So they summarily and very quickly shot down his arguments, which were not the strongest on that appeal. But the part that's more interesting to people watching it now, as we look at a picture of the two co-accused, Smich and Millard is on the left, that's who we're talking about, is people will recall, and there hasn't been enough outrage about this in my view, where the Supreme Court struck down consecutive periods of parole ineligibility for people who choose to murder more than one person. What do I mean by that? His sentence, which was he would not be able to apply for parole during the natural time of his life, he got consecutive parole and eligibility periods. Because the Supreme Court said that's cruel and unusual, their words, not mine, the Supreme Court said it would be cruel and unusual to not allow a killer like Dellen Millard to apply for parole. So he will be successful on his appeal. There are probably 10 to 20, if not more, mass killers in Canada who have all now had their sentences reduced. That's his victory today, but it was one that was set in stone that had nothing to do with anything he said in court.
Okay, Ari, what, if any, type of precedent are we talking about here? And, what could this mean for future similar cases?
Well, there's two parts of it. Number one, the public should know when it comes to actual appeals on the merits of verdicts, it's still very hard to succeed at the Court of Appeal. Trial courts bend over backwards to try and do justice to accused murderers. So when people hear the word appeal, or when somebody is convicted and they say, I'm going to go appeal, or a lawyer like me says, I'm going to go appeal on behalf of my client, those are still very hard to succeed on, whether you're Dellen Millard or not. The second part of it is I don't think there's enough of a national conversation about this parole ineligibility issue. It's a fait accompli, unless, of course, the notwithstanding clause is invoked by a government to use it. Remember, the Harper government wanted this, said every life counts. If you're a Bernardo, a Millard, a MacArthur, a Picton, you don't get a parole discount when you kill 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Given that this issue is done at the court level, it sends a message to future killers, not that they tend to listen to messages from the courts, obviously, that no matter how many people you kill, your sentence will still be life. And remember, these people will likely never get out. Millard will likely never get out. But nonetheless, we all remember when the French and Mahaffey families and other families who are not as well known as French and Mahaffey have to go to Kingston, have to explain why this is traumatic. These people will be able to apply for parole after 25 years. There's some good reason for it. Full disclosure, makes them behave better in jail, makes them not stab other inmates, make them not stab guards, make them take counseling and programming. But the Canadian people, I think, have really been left out of this conversation by their elected representatives.
Defense lawyer Ari Goldkhan with the latest in the Millard case. Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Bakari.